Where to start in the set that started it all? Well, in one aspect. But uh, this is a tough one. Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, it's Futuron, so whatever. Welcome to the set review of 6990 Monorail Transport System. I said I wasn't going to do another review this year, but I gave myself a Christmas present. I decided to put mine back together. So let's just get right into the stats of the 6990. It came out in 1987. I was 20. It came with 715 pieces, and at that time, I think it was the biggest set they ever put out. The Lego company ever put out. I could be wrong, but 715 seems to be the biggest number I've got so far. And just the length of it, like it's 10, 20, 40, 10, 20, 30, 50, 55 inches from there to the other side of the curve over here, ish, 55 inches ish. It does, anyway, I'll get into some other stats later, but for me at that time, it was the biggest set I've ever purchased from the Lego company. I was in my 20s. I remember seeing it in the store. I remember seeing it in the brochures that I was getting at the time for the smaller sets that I was buying. There's Classic Space was still for sale on the store shelves, but Futuron was available. This is a Futuron set, and I saw this in the brochures, so I had to save up for it. I think it was $115. $150 Canadian. I could be wrong on that. Something in the back of my mind says $150. That's what it cost me to buy at the time. So, and I was working. I was in my 20s. I was working, but disposable income was like $20, $30 every paycheck, and not $150. So I actually had to save up a few paychecks to be able to afford to go buy this. And I so wanted it since the very first time I saw it in one of the brochures, and even when I saw it in the stores in the big box. So I eventually bought it, and I bought it off the store shelves. I brought it home, and this is exactly what you got. It came with 4 curves, 2 straights, 2 sets of slopes, upper and lower, and 2 switches. It did not come with any small straight. It did not come with any switches. This was, if I remember correctly, and again, I don't know when the airport shuttle came out. Actually, let's look that up really, really quickly while I'm here. I'm just going to open up I'm going to type in 6, I think it's 6399. I could be wrong on that. 6399. I honestly thought the monorail was first, but I could be wrong. Monorail was first. Monorail was. This was the first monorail set. The airport showed up 4 years later. And then the Unitron, I think it was, whatever, came out after that even. So I bought this set. I was very happy this set on a ping pong table in my basement when I lived with my friends in that one house, and it came with me to my apartment. But then it got sorted into the boxes, into my collection. I started building my own monorail stuff. I can't remember when the expansion packs, the monorail expansion packs were released. It wasn't too far after 1987. The one oval came out one year, and then I think the next year the switch track expansion came out. I bought 2 sets of each. So I had lots, and I believe those were $75 a piece. Again, that might have been 50, but something in my head says they were 75 Canadian. So I had tons of monorail even at the beginning. I wanted it the second I saw it, and I thought it was a fantastic addition to the classic space. Well, the classic space being all classic, all space sets, and I loved it. And I had it set up in my spare room when I lived in the apartment with all my switch tracks and everything like that. A nice little layout there. And again, I was into my 20s, and I didn't know that other people still like Lego past, the teenage years. And so I was the only AFOL. But when friends came over, we had fun with it. But again, now that I rebuilt it, this is the first time I rebuilt it in 30 years. So I'm going to say it is a fantastic set to have, but it has the same downside of all Futuron sets, is that it looks grossly incomplete. It doesn't look filled in enough. Like, we can talk about the 926 where the whole front of it's missing, because the fourth wall is always missing on Futuron. I mean, classic space sets and buildings. But Futuron always seems to be lacking substance. It looks like the skeletal features are there, which again, this is exactly the same as this set. The skeletal features are there, but it doesn't look like it's fully fleshed out. And the example I'm going to give right now is even this building right here, where you can see here, there's absolutely nothing on this 10 by 10 wing plate. There's only a chair over here on this 10 by 10, and the rest of it's pretty much empty. And again, I don't mind that overall. And we'll talk about the business in a second, how fantastic this thing is. The operational mechanisms of this set are just beyond fantastic. But there's not a lot of details. And then again, this was fixed in the Blacktron message intercept base with the number of consoles. But there's a console there, and there's a console on this side. There's two consoles up there that I'll talk about in a sec. And again, the guys in the monorail itself have consoles, which is fine, but not a lot of consoles and not a lot of substance. A lot of skeletal features. Again, I think Lego is going for more of a form or function over form. And that's what I think is my number one issue with Futuron, because Futuron is a great line. They have some great concepts. They have some great sets in the Futuron line. But overall, everything seems to be a skeletal, non-fleshed out version of what could have been. Unlike the classic space sets, which seem to be fully fleshed out and fully solid, and looks like they came off an assembly line for space, where this seems like an architectural concept because there's missing stuff. But anyway, so I'm not going to talk about that anymore as I go. So I had fun rebuilding this thing the other night, pulling the pieces for it, and I was actually shocked that I'm missing a few over the years. I think because I used them in the layout. So in other places, like I could only find one white 2x2 tile with stripes on it, so I just substituted a blank one there. Because I think if I looked it up, it only came in a set, and maybe one or two other sets in Futuron, and I probably used them when I did the other Futuron sets, because this was, of course, would be the last Futuron set I would review. So I think I used those up. The other thing I was completely missing was the white rack here and here, because again, I used them in other reviews and or other things that I've built. So I am missing a whole bunch of that stuff. Oh, I think that's where the 3x3s go. I put those in there. I just realized something. But the pluses, because the pluses in the set far, far, far outweigh the minuses. It's uncanny how much the pluses outweigh the minuses. Forgetting my issues with Futuron looking incomplete. Quarter domes, two of them, 10 by 10 by whatever, 14 quarter domes. Fantastic. You got the 6 wide quarter panel here. Fantastic. You get lots of these radar dishes. Fantastic. And of course, the monorail track, which is utterly fantastic. And again, it didn't come with the short straights. It didn't come with any switches. And it was very limited in what you could actually build with the monorail track that you got, but you could have fun with it. You can make a nice oval, you make a nice square. The ramps are fantastic. So you could actually change this up and build other layouts just with the monorail track that you have. But it had to be, if you want it to be continuous in a loop, it was a square or a rectangle. You're not going to get any kind of more than 4 sides to your layout if you're just trying to connect all the monorail tracks together, which is, again, fine for 1987, perfectly fine. Because, again, they released the expansion sets either a year or two later, and again, I bought lots of them. So, one more deficiency that I have, and it's mostly Lego space sets have this, and especially Futuron, is that you have a control panel here, and you have a control panel here. Oops, let me break that while I'm doing this. Standing up. How are the guys supposed to get here? How are the space guys supposed to, because there's a wall here, and this is a very precarious place for the guy to stand. Again, it seems like a concept and not fully fleshed out. I mean, is he even have these kind of street lights here? like that was there, but the guy getting there, the space dude getting there, doesn't make a lot of sense. They put a little ladder on the other side. I can't see it right now, but it's on the other side. There's a little ladder coming down. It's like, okay, but how's the guy supposed to even get up there in the first place? Again, this could be the moon where the gravity is less. Doesn't matter. It's a concept. But anyway, I want to talk about something else while I was here. The actual monorail itself. Let's talk about that for a second. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Even the way you look, when you look at it now, it still holds up, I think. Even considering all the extra monorails that I've built over the year. Just seeing that back together, I love it. I like these little diagonals on the sides on both ends of it. I was enthralled when I first got this set, how smooth the monorail actually moves around the track. Right now, unfortunately, I have a very, very dead battery, but we'll just do this so it goes bye-bye. Very, very dead battery. I actually borrowed that whole idea here for my layout. You'll see some of those in the layout. Adding stuff to the track like that, and this over here and that, fantastic ideas, just little things like that. But the monorail itself, when you have a good battery, it sounds very, very smooth. It just flows very, very smoothly, and it just looks like it floats above the track, which I think is just absolutely phenomenal. These switch points, I guess we can call them switch points, work very, very well. If you put the arrow to the middle here like that, the monorail will stop, just like 3, 2, 1, click. And then if you go the other way, of course, the switch point over there hasn't changed. Yeah, this bad battery. That's gonna go. Let's go the other way. There we go. So anyway, that's what. If you had a really good battery, it is flipped. But you know, whatever. I really, really enjoyed it. Now you will see on this 6990, I have the original monorail wire connector going from the battery box to the, let me stop that for a sec, to the motor. It's the one plate high battery box connector on both sides. They changed it after the 6990. They changed it to this. I'll bring it over here to the regular 9-volt connectors that we all know, which is 2 plates high and a lot more robust. This one was very, very, you had the very, very delicate, and I don't know which side of mine, it could be the one that's actually in the motor. I only have one of these where the inside fell off, and that's it. So the inside covering plate fell off years and years ago, and I don't even have it anymore, but it still works. So, this is the first set that I got with light and sound, I think. I want to say light and sound no, because I got the classic space sets, the 3 of them before this. So light and sound, the lights came out before. But this one only came with the 1, which again is fine. This thing came with these wonderful boxes that I used a lot back in the day, cargo containers. This one came with like that. And this little ship here was a cute little thing that would pop out and you could fly around. Nice, no control console on it, though, which I thought was a little bit odd, and that's happened a lot again. The actual cockpit, the compartment, really nice. It came with, I didn't mention this, 5 minifigs, 3 yellow and 2 blue. Just fantastic. This one came with a double-seater in the front. So that's always nice to have. I don't have it back there. This front, I think, is just fantastic because it reminds me of those 1950, 1960 science fiction movies where you had all those little tiers of whatever, even going back to 1940s Frankenstein movies. Just love this kind of front and the back. Look like transformers or insulators for whatever. I think that's just was very, very, what's what I'm looking for? An homage to classic science fiction. This little thing, I think was a little underappreciated, not a lot of effort put into it, but still really, really good. I'm trying to do this with one hand, where the little ship here, the little vehicle here is carrying these guys. This is the other cargo container. Again, it has more weapons inside or tools, and these things come up and lock it into place. So the functionality, again, I was missing a 2x2 with the arrow on it, but that's fine. So this thing, this point stops right here, and this thing is supposed to go in here like that, and then of course this thing moves backwards like that. So now it's the guy's looking at the cargo container. I love this mechanism. I thought this mechanism was utterly fantastic. I would have liked to see maybe a 4-quarter dome panel to make a whole sphere enclosure, but it doesn't do that. But this is good enough. And so you got this side, and it comes back, and you can put it back on the monorail. On the other side, basically this thing gets put onto here like that. Again, I'm doing this one hand with the other hand holding the camera, and then it gets moved up to the height of the monorail, and you get to put a monorail there. So, oops, let me. This is fun trying to do this with one hand. So again, really cool functionality. But again, you look at the openness, the airiness, the lack of substance to both of these buildings, and that's the detriment. Again, that's small potatoes considering what you get. I really did like this thing. They kind of used the space supply base of 6930, and they had the same kind of idea, and they ran with it on this one, and just with Futron colors. And I think it's just lovely, both sides. And buying expansion packs just made this thing like a whole big base. And again, I'm going to mention Space 1999 again with Alpha Base on the moon. This was as close to classic Space or Space 1999, where you actually have a real physical big idea of a wide, a sprawling base on a foreign body, like a planet or a moon. That's what you get from this guy. I absolutely adored this set. This set was together for a very long time for me. When I was building it this time, I tried to grab the best pieces I could find. I did not grab my old yellowed, because again, this thing was together in my house for a very long time in my apartment. And the sun was beating down on it for years. And I can show you this because you come over here and you see this. This is a white 2x8 Technic plate that was in my monorail. I got a new one over there. That's how bad that got. And then you got this guy. Oops, let me pick that up. You got this panel, which almost looks tan now, but it is white. That was sitting in the sun. And you got this white 1x2 with arrow on it. It looks tan, but it is white. And then even the gray. And I found this out because I did not know this. This only came in the 6990, the gray 2x2 round tile with arrow on it. And so I have I have 3 of these because I know I got 2 of them with my monorail set. And I know I had a couple more 6990s that I purchased over the years, but they were used. So I probably have more than 3, but I know I have 3 because I got one over there too. Except that one's pretty much mint. And these 2 are probably part of my collection way back in the day. So it is what it is. I honestly, I cannot complain about the yellowing because I did leave these things out in the sun in my spare room with the window open. And again, back then in the 90s, I had no idea that the Lego would yellow. Of course, I left one of my space sets in a fish tank, and I did not know for 20 years that those colors would fade either. But it is what it is. I adore this set. I'm not saying this is going to be better than the Unitron set, because the Unitron set has more functionality than this one. But in the end, this was their very first kick at the can of Monorail. And I'm going to say they knocked it out of the park. This was a home run. This is easily a home run set for what it was and how expensive it was. And them basically building some of this stuff from scratch. Like, that is unique. The monorail track, never had it before. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to probably say the same thing during my next review when I get up to the 6991, is that it is very unfortunate. And again, I'm not faulting the company because they can do whatever they want, but it is extremely unfortunate in my mind that they didn't continue with this. And again, I hear the general ideas as to why they didn't continue with this monorail, because they had some ideas for other lines, bringing monorail, because they just had town and two space. They're going to bring it into other themes. But it is a shame that they didn't do that they didn't pursue that. And because of honestly how wonderful it is, how much playability you have. And again, you just go online right now and you can find very easily people building their own monorail themes and using this track and this kind of foundational stuff. I mean, I ran with it. You look at my layout and I had like so much fun running with it. In the end, it was so good. Even back in 1987, this was so good, and this ran forever in my apartment. I was just enthralled just watching it on this stupid little loop. It was just one little tiny loop like this, and I would just let it run for hours at a time while I was building other stuff or whatever. Just hearing the noise in the background, the monorail noise, just makes me happy. It's one of those things that you say, "Oh, the monorail's running," and let me just put it this way now, and put it that way because oh my goodness. Yep, let's see what happens here. Yeah, I have to figure out why that thing's... I think this monorail motor's bad. I never had a monorail motor go bad on me, personally. But I find that to be a nice sound. It's a nice, pleasing sound for me. Of course, I've been listening to it since I was 20. So that's 35 years ago I've been listening to that. And 35 years of playing with monorail and building my own and just going with it, and then buying all the expansion sets. And again, I didn't get into a lot of tangents back when I was talking about the 928 because I didn't want to. But let's talk about a few tangents on the monorail. So Jeff and I, when we did our first space layout, we made sure there was monorail in it. Like that's what we did. Like the whole idea of the first layout was we were just going to put a bunch of classic space sets together and put a bunch of base plates out with craters and landing pads, and that was going to be it. Again, inspired by Greg Hyland, but that was going to be the extent of our layout. But the very first layout, I had to have monorail in it. I really did. And so we have one monorail loop of my very first, well, not my first mock, but my first mock for that kind of layout, and it went on from there. And I think there was the square that was 12.5 by 12.5 foot that Jeff and I did, where we had 6 or 7 separate monorail loops, and that's because monorail has always been in every single iteration of our classic space layout, because that to me is that foundational to space sets. Again, they discontinued it in Unitron, and they only came out in Futron and Unitron and Space Side. But they could have done it for every... You look at some of the M-Tron monorails that people have invented, and let's not even forget, let's absolutely mention the Blacktron Intelligence Agency. If you want to Google something on the YouTubes, look up Blacktron Intelligence Agency. My good friend Joe Mino was at one of the brick conventions years ago, where, and again, I can't remember his name, but he brought he made the Blacktron Intelligence Agency, and that had monorail loops in it. It is ubiquitous. So a lot of people, a lot of fans have made their own version of the monorail for the various space themes. And I'm there for all of it. I'm absolutely there for all of it. As for me, I did buy the 6990 off the shelf back when I was 20. I had to save up for it, as I mentioned. I remember to this day walking into the store, walking into Zeller's, walking in and buying the set off the shelf, and just having a great time when I built it the very first time and leaving it together. And then I waited a year or two and I bought the accessory packs, but I could not get them at Zeller's. I actually had to go to the Sears outlet over at the Center Mall to get those. And I bought 2 each when they were released. And so I had enough monorail, but it wasn't, honestly, seriously, it was not too long after that. So I get 1990, 1991, where I was buying used lots, again, the ad in the paper and friends of friends, or I started getting the extra monorail track. And then when the internet showed up and eBay showed up, I mentioned the $75 per Galaxy Explorer that I did for a year. For Monorail, what I used to do, you can't do it now because it's very expensive, but back when people weren't expecting Monorail track to be expensive, I would look for lots on the eBays. And so I just had Lego Monorail as a search item in my eBay bookmarks. And every time I saw an eBay lot of just Monorail track, like sometimes you would see a 6990 for sale, and sometimes you would see a 6991 for sale. And sometimes, yes, you would even see a 6399, the airport shuttle for sale. And those were always big money to buy the whole set, especially if they had the box with it. I'm going to stop that because the battery's starting to die. I just absolutely love this thing. Let me just stop it right there. So it's right there. I'm going to turn off the light too. So what I would do is every time I saw a used lot of track on eBay, I would say, okay, I'm going to count up the pieces. And if it was a curved piece, it was $2. That's what I was going to bid. If it was a straight piece, I was $10. It was even if it was a ramps were $10. If it was a switch, the switch itself was $15, and that little short half half curve was also $15. And I would add it up. So if it had 10 straights, that was $50 right there. If it was a short, if the short thing was $250, and I would add, so this is $60 of all the pieces, and I would put $60 on it. If I lost, I lost, and I didn't worry about it. I did not worry about it. Sometimes I got sniped, and sometimes it would be like $200 because I had lots of Monorail track, and sometimes I would lose. Usually, the more expensive ones, I won. Sometimes I would bid $250 because I had tons of Monorail track, and I added it up, and that was the exact number. And if it came with extra pieces, I did not put any money in for the extra pieces, unless it was a motor. If it was a motor, it was $10. But if it was like the towers, the sanctions, the supports, those are zero to me because I already had lots. But there was a lot of lots on eBay back in the day of just track, sometimes the motor. If it wasn't the official set, it was just basically track and motors and its supports. And I won, I know, a dozen times. And I got, let me just get over there. Forgive the mess. And this is not what I have in my layout, which is boxes, but this is my boxes of straight track and big and small. That's my curve box, and those are my switches and points down there. So I got 3 big bins of Monorail track from eBay and from the, and again, I bought the 6990 and I bought 2 expansion packs each. But also, the other tangent for Monorail for me would be I got to work with my very good friend Mike Shields over at Lasting Toys when he opened up a bricks and mortar store, because Mike had a Bricklink store for the longest time, and he wanted to open up a bricks and mortar. So he started, and then he said, hey, I need some additional help on weekends, whatever. So Sandy and I were just dating. And then I was spending my weekends on Saturday going into Mississauga to work at the store. But Mike's a good guy, and of course I did that. And so I did that for almost a year, maybe over a year. And I would say that I spent more on Lego there than I actually made working for him, but whatever. and Mike had 2 or 3 bins of those 3033 bins, the Lego bins. I don't think I have any left in my building in here, but they're basically smaller than that. But he had 2 or 3 of those full of Monorail track that he's been collecting over the years, because again, he's also a fan just like us. And he was going to use that in his store. He was going to have a Monorail.
Get a brown axle piece.
You can show whatever you want, bud. He was gonna have a Monorail loop in his store. What size?
I don't know.
So the brown ones, I think they're in the 4s or 3s. I don't know. He was gonna have a loop in the store, like just hanging from the ceiling, and he was actually planning on that. Just like, some kids' bedrooms have a train track going around the perimeter of their house. Can you just bring me one? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. So and yet he couldn't do that because his lawyer said, if the monorail falls off the track and falls down and hits somebody in the head, you basically just lost your store, because people would sue you for that kind of thing. So he never bothered doing that in the store. And he goes, well, I have these 3 bins of Monorail track, and he knows that, I was already doing layouts and shows and stuff. And he goes, I'll sell you all my Monorail for $300. I said, you sure? Like, honestly, Mike, because like, how you value this thing, how much Monorail tracks goes for. He goes, no, $300 is fair. I said, okay, so it's $300. And basically I doubled the amount of Monorail track I own just by buying that stuff off of Mike. So I have enough Monorail for myself to last me the rest of my life. And so I'm not looking actively at all for more Monorail track, but I have one more story. And it's one of those things that I absolutely love to tell, because it's one of those things that right time, right place, and just knowing what I know. I think it was just not even 3 or 4 years. No, it was before COVID. So maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I already owned a 6991. I knew I owned a 6991. I just never, it came in used lots. I got lots of used lots, and I owned at least 1 or 2 6991s. But I never put one together ever. I've only built a 6991 once, and I have to build it again because that's my next review. But, but what happened was I had finished building a 6991 for the first time 6 or 7 years ago. It's cool. Again, it didn't have the nostalgic feel that this one has, because again, this was my first, and as I keep on saying, that like the 918 is my first, so it's the one I love the most. I seem to have the appreciation of what I've had the longest more than what comes later, unless it's something spectacularly different. The 6991 is different enough from this one to make a difference, but not that big a difference. And I like the 6991, and I'm going to review it. And it's been a while since I've had one together. But anyway, the 6991, I knew I already owned. But so Sandy and I would go to the local thrift store once a week after dinner to look around, just kind of meander and whatever. She sometimes finds a nice sweater or finds me a nice T-shirt that I can wear around in the garage. And I always look for Lego in the toy section. And even, okay, on this right now, Sandy and I were there yesterday, the day before Christmas. Today is Christmas, by the way. I don't know when I'm going to actually put this thing up there, but today is Christmas. And so Sandy and I were at Lego at the Value Village yesterday, and there was 5 or 6 full bags, $9.99, of 100% Lego, but it was all modern Lego. It had the little cloud plates that I think Unikitty series used and a few other things used. And really nice colors, really nice things. But again, it's all friends and newer stuff, and I don't need to sort that anymore right now. I got boxes of it. So 3s are in the 3 bin, right there. Is that 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Where's my 2s? Oh, there's my 2s. So anyway, so this is 6 or 7 years ago. 6 or 7 years ago, I did build a 6991 for the first time. I got the instructions off of Piron, and I built it, and I loved it. And then Sandy and I, a couple months later, we're at Value Village, and we're walking around, and she's looking at clothes that she can wear for whatever, and looking for comfy pants for me. And I go straight to the back where they always hang the bags of Lego and other toys. And I walk back there, and I see hanging off the wall in 2 baggies. Actually, no, it was 1 big bag, $19.99. And I saw a Monorail track in it. And I'm going, well, that's odd. It's like my hands were shocked. Like I stopped dead in my tracks. Like I saw Monorail track in a thrift store baggie, clear baggie with $19.99 on it. And I'm going, oh, that's interesting. And my brain couldn't actually I couldn't wrap my mind around it for a couple seconds. Like I was frozen in my footsteps. Like it was just it was an odd experience to come across Monorail. It's like you don't expect to see it there. I've never seen it there like that before. I've seen it behind the counter. I've bought Monorail from behind the counter before at our thrift store, but not just hanging off the shelf out in the back. So I grabbed the bag, $19.99. I'm looking at the bag, and I'm going, these are the pieces that are in the 6991, and yet I saw more track in there that came in a 6991. So it came with 2 switches, 2 small curves, a bunch of big curves, and some straights, and the ramp pieces. But it had some extras. And of course, I didn't know that at the time until I brought it home. So I brought it home, paid $20 for it, brought it home, 6991. And of course, I didn't know the complete 6991 was in there. And I started putting it together because most of it was still as a 6991. All the buildings were together except, parts broken off. And so I put it together, and there was like 2 or 3 extra straight tracks, a couple, 2 curve pieces, and then like 5 or 6 the small quarter pieces of straight. And the only thing that it was missing was the big black. I don't think I have one readily available. The big black raised base plate. That was the only thing that was missing. The motor was there, and the motor worked. The battery box was there, that worked, and the trans dark blue, all of it was there except for the raised base plate, and I got extra monorail track in it. I was incredulous to this day that I got that for $20 minus discount. It's like just wow. That was my single best find in the thrift store for Lego. And again, that was like less than a decade ago. And again, we find lots of great stuff at the thrift store over the years. And again, as I say, even yesterday, there was like 4 or 5 bags of wonderful bricks, clean bricks, 100% Lego that they're at the thrift store. And I didn't buy them because I have enough, and I have to do something with what I have. But that was, again, Monorail, and it makes for a nice story here. But Monorail has been an integral, I think it's red, a foundational part of my Lego hobby since I was 20. It really has. And I'm going to go back onto this topic really, really quick. I understand Lego is going to change and evolve over the years and go on with new things to get their market share and to get people to continue to get people interested in what they have. But for me, just for me, my biggest, and again, I don't lose sleep over it. I'm not shaking my fist in the general direction of Denmark saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have." You guys do what you want. You, Lego company, have proven yourself over the years to be able to make decisions for yourself, to move on. The late 90s were a testament to what you shouldn't do. But moving on and changing things and whatever, discontinuing that, adding this, changing that, whatever. So you guys keep on doing what you're doing, stay in business for as long as you want, as long as you can. But for me, the biggest downfall, or the biggest mistake, the biggest thing that they've ever did that I would even remotely say, what were you guys thinking, is discontinuing the monorail line. Straight up. It is so much fun. It is fun, it is expandable, and you get to have, with relatively few pieces, and yes, they are expensive pieces, straight up, it is an expensive part of this hobby. $150 to buy the 6990 is not a cheap price tag for a Lego set. Back in the day, now it's Trump change. Like, you walk into a Lego store and mostly, basically, over half the sets are over $150. But anyway, but the monorails were expensive at the time. They still obviously are expensive, but what you get out of it, I think it's well worth the money. And that's just me, because I'm a huge monorail fan. But in the end, my 6990, I'm so glad I built it. It's going to stay together now. And I do have one more, I guess a few more themes to get all the sets together. And one of them is Futuron. And so I had to build this one for that. And this is the last one I have to build. So at some point, you're going to see all my Futuron sets together in some sort of video. But I think that is definitely going to be the new year, because I'm going to be busy for the next couple of days. So I want everybody out there, I hope everybody, no, it's the day after Christmas, or the day of Christmas. Today is December 25th. Tomorrow is the day after Christmas. Tomorrow is Boxing Day. I hope everybody had a good Christmas today. I don't think, I may be uploading this tonight. I don't know yet. But I hope everybody had a good Christmas today. And I hope everybody has a good holiday season. And I don't know if I'm gonna do anything between now and New Year's on this channel. I have no idea. There's some stuff going on that may lead to a good video here and there and everywhere. But I really wanted to get this one done before end of the year. I had some time last night to pull the pieces and rebuild this thing. I was expecting, again, somehow in my head, it was going to be taking longer to build. It took longer to pull the pieces, obviously, to build. The building, I was surprised, was very, very easy. And that's just the way it is. And because easy does not mean bad in this case, easy means fun for me. And I really, really loved building this. It's been a long time since I had the original monorail back together. 30 years since I had this thing back together. And what I was planning on doing as a final note, if this is, we can actually say final note when I start talking, I was going to do a flex by building 2 of these, but as you can see on my desk, there's no way 2 can fit on here. Even though, and again, I would not have more of those. And again, I even missing the rack and pinions because they're all used up in other sets. So I will be making a Bricklink order in the new year to replenish my supplies of the rack and pinion, black and white, because I'm out. I'm completely out right now. So I don't think the 6991 had that in there, but I do like to have spares. I did add some to my other mocks that I've had because they're a fun piece to use, and that's why I don't have any for here or even the right colors for here. So I want some more spares. So there's going to be that in the new year. I'm running with other stuff right now, but I have one more space set to build, the 6991, and I don't think I'll be nearly as long or as gushing about it. It is a cool set, but I don't think it's nearly, and this is more nostalgic than anything. I don't think it's as cool as this one. It does have more functionality than this one. It does have more interesting bits than this one, but this one was the original, and for me, this one's the best out of the entire monorail line. I think this is better than the airport shuttle, although there are other people who disagree. They like the airport shuttle because it is cohesive. It's not just a skeleton, but again, they had 2 years to work on it, or actually 3 years, 1991, 4 years to work on it. This one, the original and the best. Anyway, that's it. That's all. I'm happy to do this thing, to turn this thing back on, just get it one more in there and just see how bad it is. Oops, go the other way. I love the monorail. Oh, so yeah, I think the motor's gone. Okay, kids. Whee! That's okay. I have spares. I have a few spares. That's it. That's all. I want everybody out there to stay safe, take care, and I will talk to you soon.